Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. And we are discussing climate change news of the day. What's going on, everyone? Plenty of people in the chats on the YouTube side. Plenty of people in the chats on the Rockfin side. What's going on, Rockfin people? Robert Arajo, Lauren Neufeld, Snake 1974, Jay Thadcast, Anthony Davis, William Moy, Urban Hermit, Raza. The gang is all here on Rockfin. And yeah, right before this always happens, like right before the video, somebody sends me something really great, and I feel like clearing the whole table of what I was going to talk about and talking about this thing that they sent me. But I'm not going to do that. I'll save it for tomorrow. Nasbanabs. Too many people on Earth are idiots. Yeah. G. Demarest, how you doing? Alan Roberts, hello. Jacob Gordon, Donut Empty Circle. Ooh, we got 14 watching on Rockfin. That's good. Let's get more. Let's get some more. Thanks, everyone who hung out with me on Rockfin yesterday. John Gladkowski, how you doing? All right. Let's get into this quickly from Go Green. From Go Green. Europe climate could alter rapidly. Freshwater content in Beaufort Sea, which is largest Arctic Ocean freshwater reservoir, has increased by 40% over the past 2 decades. And when this water is released into the Atlantic Ocean, could abruptly alter the northern hemisphere climate. Let's look at this a little bit. Record high Arctic freshwater will flow to Labrador Sea, affecting local and global oceans. So again, knock on effects of climate change. This is from February 24th. Freshwater is accumulating in the Arctic Ocean. The Beaufort Sea, which is the largest Arctic Ocean freshwater reservoir, has increased its freshwater content by 40%. How and where this water will flow into the Atlantic Ocean is important for local and global ocean conditions. A study from the University of Washington, Los Alamos National Laboratory, and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration shows that this freshwater travels through the Canadian archipelago to reach the Labrador Sea, rather than through the wider marine passageways that connect to seas in northern Europe. The open access study was published February 23rd in Nature Communications. The Canadian archipelago is a major conduit between the Arctic and the North Atlantic. So lead author Zhizhu Zhang, I wish I knew how to pronounce that correctly, a UW postdoctoral researcher at the Cooperative Institute for Climate, Ocean, and Ecosystem Studies. In the future, if the wind gets weaker and the freshwater gets released, there is potential for this high amount of water to have a big influence in the Labrador Sea region. The finding has implications for the Labrador Sea marine environment, since Arctic water tends to be fresher, but also rich in nutrients. This pathway also affects larger oceanic currents, namely a conveyor belt circulation in the Atlantic Ocean, in which colder, heavier water, that would be known as the AMOC, colder, heavier water sinks in the North Atlantic and comes back along the surface as the Gulf Stream. fresher, lighter water entering the Labrador Sea could slow that overturning circulation, which is already slowed. We know that the Arctic Ocean has one of the biggest climate change signals, said co-author Wei Cheng at the UW-based Cooperative Institute for Climate, Ocean, and Atmospheric Studies. Right now, this fresh water is still trapped in the Arctic. Once it gets out, it can have a very large impact. Fresher water reaches the Arctic Ocean through rain, snow, rivers, inflows from the relatively fresher Pacific Ocean, as well as a recent melting of the Arctic Ocean sea ice. People have spent a lot of time studying why the Beaufort Sea freshwater has gotten so high in the past few decades, said Zhang, who began the work at Los Alamos National Laboratory, but they rarely care where the fresh water goes, and we think that's a much more important problem. A freshwater release of this size, let me see, the volume of freshwater now in the Beaufort Sea is about twice the size of the case studied at more than 23,300 cubic kilometers, or more than 5,500 cubic miles. This volume of freshwater released in the North Atlantic could have significant effects. The exact impact is unknown. The study focused on past events, and current research is looking at where today's freshwater buildup might end up and what changes it could trigger. A freshwater release of this size into the subpolar North Atlantic could impact a critical circulation pattern called the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, or AMOC, which has a significant influence on the Northern Hemisphere climate, said co-author Wilbert Weger. Again, everything kind of fitting together to form the bigger picture of why this is bad. Why this is all bad. Let's not slow down the AMOC. Let's see. See, somebody's talking about buzzing. Did the buzzing get any better? Okay. If we're getting crackle or buzzing in the audio, please let me know. I want to move on to this next story. And this is, this is very interesting. And again, this becomes kind of this, I don't know if I read it here or somewhere else, but I think I read it in passing in a headline. Somebody was talking about, Texas and renewables, how renewables will become the centerpiece of the next culture war. And that's unfortunate because, the culture war kind of, distills everything down into the most dumb elements. The most unnuanced, ridiculous elements on both sides, on the right or the left. And the culture war dictates that, on the right, renewables are bad because we need to get back to the fossil fuels of our early creators. We need to get back to the fossil fuels that Jesus told us that we have every right to suck up from the ground and burn. This is what the Lord has said. And he has said unto us, and I had heard thusly when I went to church in my brand new Ford F-150 or F-3000 or F-63 million, F the planet. I went to church in my Ford F the planet. And F these liberals too. All right, so on the right side, yeah, renewables are stupid. It's never going to work. What are this? This is dumb. Right. So you just have dumb as bricks logic going on there. And then on the left side, you have we need these renewables to get to net zero. We're going to get to net zero, and we're going to save the planet, and we're going to, we got to do it. This is the Green New Deal is the thing we got to support, and we got to support Joe Biden, and we got to support, this new changing our infrastructure. We've got to support this transition. It's going to mean a lot of jobs. If you don't support renewable technology, what are you, some kind of, Neanderthal? What are you, a right-wing jerk-off? What are you, a Trump supporter? What are you, a crazy, right, like that kind of stuff. But again, the problem is fossil fuel energy is renewable energy on some levels because it's used to create the renewables. So, they're completely, the people on the left are completely missing that part of the equation. And the people on the right are missing that too, right? If they actually knew what the hell was going on, they'd be like, yes, more renewables, please, because that means more fossil fuels. If they really love, go to bed at night with their arms around a barrel of oil. Yeah, so it's just, the conversation is completely, lacking nuance and lacking real depth and lacking a real understanding of what all this really means, what renewable energy means. But here's an article that kind of elucidates, one of the several problems with renewable energy. Or the just, the knee-jerk embrace of renewable energy. I'm not saying it's all bad. I'm just saying can we have deeper conversations about how and when and why and how much. Scientists unearth a consequence of solar panels in the Sahara. A giant solar farm sounds perfect, right? Not quite. This is from inverse.com. The world's most forbidding deserts could be the best places on Earth for harvesting solar power, the most abundant and clean source of energy we have. Deserts are spacious, relatively flat, rich in silicon, the raw material for the semiconductors from which solar cells are made, and never short of sunlight. In fact, the 10 largest solar plants around the world are all located in deserts or dry regions. Researchers imagine it might be possible to transform the world's largest desert, the Sahara, into a giant solar farm, capable of meeting 4 times the world's current energy demand. Blueprints have been drawn up for projects in Tunisia and Morocco that would supply electricity for millions of households. Where? In Europe, right? Not in Africa, in Europe. So if anybody's red flag, ding went up on that one. Ding? Huh? But, blueprints for these huge solar farms in Africa have been drawn up to supply the people of Europe with energy. Mm-hmm. So now we get some green colonialism. Awesome. It's going to be great, guys. While the black surfaces of solar panels absorb most of the sunlight that reaches them, only a fraction, this is the important part, around 15% of that incoming energy gets converted to electricity. The rest is returned to the environment as heat. Did you guys know this? Did you know? So, it's absorbing, the solar panels absorb the heat, but only turn a fraction of it into electricity, and the rest of that absorbed heat just becomes heat. The rest is returned to the environment as heat. So it's kind of like painting your roof black. It's kind of like going backwards on some levels, right? You're collecting this electricity, that's awesome, but then you're also collecting this heat too. The panels are usually much darker than the ground they cover, so a vast expanse of solar cells will absorb a lot of additional energy and emit it as heat, affecting the climate. Did you guys know this? Did you know? If these effects were only local, they might not matter in a sparsely populated and barren desert. But the scale of the installations that would be needed to make a dent in the world's fossil energy demand would be vast, covering thousands of square kilometers. You need a whole mess of solar panels. Heat re-emitted from an area this size. What if we had we need solar panels that are like mirrors, right? So we need to combine the mirrors project with solar panels. So we're going to reflect a bunch of this sunlight and heat, but we're also going to suck up a little bit of it too. Maybe, I don't know. Just an idea, just a thought. Has anybody thought of that? Anybody out there thought of that? Heat re-emitted from an area this size will be redistributed by the flow of air in the atmosphere, having regional and even global effects on climate. A greener Sahara. So here's a plus for these vast solar farms. On some levels, a 2018 study used a climate model to simulate the effects of lower albedo on the land surface of deserts caused by installing massive solar farms. Albedo is a measure of how well surfaces reflect sunlight. Sand, for example, is much more reflective than a solar panel, and so has a higher albedo. The model revealed that when the size of the solar farm reaches 20% of the total area of the Sahara, it's a lot of area, it triggers a feedback loop. The heat emitted by the darker solar panels compared to the highly reflective desert soil, so they're changing the albedo, creates a steep temperature difference between the land and the surrounding oceans that ultimately lowers surface air pressure and causes moist air to rise and condense into raindrops. With more monsoon rainfall, plants grow and the desert reflects less of the sun's energy since vegetation absorbs light better than sand and soil. With more plants present, more water is evaporated, creating a more humid environment that causes vegetation to spread. This scenario might seem fanciful, but studies suggest that a similar feedback loop kept much of the Sahara green during the African humid period, which only ended 5,000 years ago. Long time in human history, not so long ago in the Earth's history. So a giant solar farm could generate ample energy to meet global demand and simultaneously turn one of the most hostile environments on Earth into a habitable oasis. Sounds perfect, right? Not quite. In a recent study, we used an advanced Earth system model to closely examine how Saharan solar farms interact with the climate. Our model takes into account the complex feedbacks between the interacting spheres of the world's climate, the atmosphere, the ocean, and the land, and its ecosystems. It showed that there could be unintended effects in remote parts of the land and ocean that offset any regional benefits over the Sahara itself. Drought in the Amazon, cyclones in Vietnam, covering what's going on right now, that sounds like today, not in the future. Covering 20% of the Sahara with solar farms raises local temperatures in the desert by 1.5 C. 1.5 C. That is a lot, according to our model. at 50% coverage. 50% coverage, that's a lot. That's a lot of solar panels. The temperature increases 2.5 C. Ooh, that's hot. This warming is eventually spread around the globe by the atmosphere and ocean movement, raising the world's average temperature by 0.16 C for 20% coverage and 0.39 C for 50% coverage. So if you covered, you would actually raise the temperature of the planet. So no emissions necessary, except for making this all those solar panels, covering 20% of the Sahara. I mean, how many gigatons of emissions would you create doing that, or tons of emissions? Kilotons, we'll say. But you would actually raise the temperature of the planet. Interesting. The global temperature shift is not uniform, though. The polar regions would warm more than the tropics, which that sounds like today, increasing sea ice loss in the Arctic. That sounds like today. Why are they talking about this as if it's in the future? They should say, which is already happening right now. This could further accelerate warming as melting sea ice exposes dark water, which absorbs much more solar energy. The massive new heat source in the Sahara reorganizes global air and ocean circulation, affecting precipitation patterns around the world. The narrow band of heavy rainfall in the tropics, which accounts for more than 30% of the global precipitation and supports the rainforests of the Amazon and the Congo Basin, shifts northward in our simulations. For the Amazon region, this causes droughts as less moisture arrives from the ocean. Roughly the same amount of additional rainfall that falls over the Sahara due to the surface darkening effects of the solar panels is lost from the Amazon. Wow. The model also predicts more frequent tropical cyclones hitting North America and the East Asian coast. Already happening. Can you guys at least say it's already happening? Some important processes are missing from our model, such as the dust blown from large deserts. Saharan dust carried on the wind is a vital source of nutrients for the Amazon and the Atlantic Ocean. So a greener Sahara would have an even bigger global effect than our simulations suggested. So some information missing from the simulations. We are only beginning to understand the potential consequences of establishing massive solar farms in the world's deserts. Solutions like this may help society transition from fossil energy, but Earth system studies like ours underscore the importance of considering the numerous coupled responses of the atmosphere, oceans, and land surface when examining their benefits and risk. That's all people are asking for, is a nuanced discussion around renewables. Perhaps not, let's not go headlong into this technology. We've got it. It's in our grasp. We can transform our energy grid. Not so fast there, Bill Gatesy. Anyways, I thought that was a very interesting article. I forget who sent that to me. I forget who, and I apologize, but whoever sent it to me, thank you. Black Bear Links, what's going on? Everyone say hello to Black Bear Links. Greetings. Exactly. It's like painting rooftops black instead of white. Exactly, Erk One. I mean, I've never really thought about it that way, but that's actually literally what they're saying in this. Laura Neufeld says, yes, mirrors can be reversed. It is mechanical, not chemical. Should things go badly, we could pull the plug. Oh, yeah. True. Ryan Gorman says there are billions, if not trillions, of unused CDs out there. Tape them to roofs. There you go. The mirrors. Yes. Let's crowdfund the Mirrors Project. We just collect CDs, unused CDs. I love it. It's a great idea, Ryan Gorman. I like it. Let's start a crowdfunded community-based project. We'll just collect old CDs and we'll just tape them to people's roofs, and we will reflect all that heat back into space. I like it. I like it a lot. Anyways, want to finish up with a couple of things. Did you all know that Mexico has banned GM corn imports? So, they're going, they're high on fossil fuels and coal apparently, which is bad, but they did ban GM corn imports, so that's good. I'm not going to read this whole thing. We're just going to look at this a little bit. And it's making people a little bit upset. Mexican President AMLO quietly rocked the agribusiness world with his New Year's Eve decree to phase out the use of the herbicide glyphosate and the cultivation of genetically modified corn. This is good. These are good things. Will he be able to do it? It's a question. His administration sent an even stronger aftershock 2 weeks later, clarifying that the government would also phase out GM corn imports in 3 years, and the ban would include not just corn for human consumption, but yellow corn destined primarily for livestock. Under NAFTA, the United States has seen a 400% increase in corn exports to Mexico, the vast majority genetically modified yellow dent corn. The bold policy moves fulfill a campaign promise by Mexico's populist president, whose agricultural policies have begun to favor Mexican producers, particularly small-scale farmers, and protect consumers alarmed by the rise of obesity and chronic diseases associated with high-fat, high-sugar processed food. Let's all give a little golf clap to AMLO for this. This is good. This is great. In banning glyphosate, the decree cites the precautionary principle. What's the precautionary principle? What's that? And the growing body of scientific research showing the dangers of the chemical, the active ingredient in Bayer Monsanto's Roundup herbicide. The government has stopped imports of glyphosate since late 2019, citing the World Health Organization's warning that the chemical is a probable carcinogen. Well, yeah. My apologies, Rockfin people, for my stream being a little bumpy there. The prohibitions on genetically modified corn, which appear toward the end of the decree, have more profound implications. The immediate ban on permits for cultivation of GM corn formalizes current restrictions ordered by Mexican courts in 2013 when a citizen lawsuit challenged the government permitting of experimental GM corn planting by Monsanto and other multinational seed companies on the grounds of the contamination threat they pose to Mexico's rich store of native corn varieties. The import ban cites the same environmental threats but goes further, advancing the López Obrador administration's goals of promoting greater food self-sufficiency in key crops. as the degree states, with the objective of achieving self-sufficiency and food sovereignty, our country must be oriented towards establishing a sustainable and culturally adequate agricultural production through the use of agroecological practices and inputs that are safe for human health, the country's biocultural diversity, and the environment, as well as congruent with the agricultural traditions of Mexico. And of course, I think that's about all I'm going to read of that. But of course, the U.S. you can see, if the U.S. had a face, it would be turning beet red right now with anger and vitriol. And the Monsanto Bayer alliance is also beet red with anger and vitriol, I'm sure, over this. But that's great. That is awesome. We'll see how long that ban stands. How long will it stand? I wonder. Okay, so just a few other things I want to cover today. Almost done. Yeah, I'm already live there, buddy boy. Just trying to get my stream back up on Rockfin. Kevin Shanholzer, the American Enterprise Institute calls concerns about GMOs a conspiracy theory. Of course they do. Gates is likely turning red too, last I heard, largest shareholder of Monsanto stock. I didn't know that. Irk1, thanks. Of course, of course. Real science is a conspiracy theory. Fake science, totally real. Who's paying for the science? That's who you have to ask. Don't just believe science. You got to understand who's paying for the science, who's behind the science, and then decide whether you want to believe it or not. That's how that works. 18 watching on Rockfin. Let's get 20. Let's get 20. Do I hear 20? Blah, 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 blah. 18 going on 19 on 20. 20. Let's see. Let's like up the video, guys, on all channels. Like it up, like it up, like it up. I was gonna say I had a funny run-in on Twitter with the Bing Bongs on Twitter. Somebody was a doctor or PhD, whatever. Somebody with a doctorate said, mentioned something about overpopulation. And a bunch of people were like, "Oh my God! Oh, they give PhDs to anybody these days," which is true. But anyways, they thought they were being funny. But then some really not very bright people were having discussions about overpopulation, and somebody said, "You could fit all the people on the planet Earth in the state of Texas and give them all 1,000 square feet." And I was like, whoa, that's a weird claim. So I looked it up and I was like, yeah, well, if you're talking about the square footage of Texas, it's actually true. And I was like, that's interesting. But then I was like, his idea that you would fit all the people in the state of Texas. I mean, his idea was based on the premise of space. There's enough space on the planet for everybody. And I was like, yeah, everybody has 1,000 feet. What are they going to do with 1,000 feet? How are you going to grow food? Where's the food going to come from? Where's the livability of the land? It could, is somebody going to live? Is every 1,000 square feet of Texas viable for habitation? No, it is not. Anyways, it was kind of a ridiculous. PhDs are acidic. Good one, Basil. I like it. Uh, it was kind of ridiculous. It was a ridiculous, like, kind of argument. I was trying to explain to him, like, but, it's really, you have no understanding or concept of ecology or how much environment it takes to keep people alive. And, are people the only people in the environment? Are there other people? Is there animals? Are there plants? Are there, you know what I mean? And I tried to, kind of say, like, you don't understand the idea, the concept of carrying capacity, right? But and then somebody came in and called me a Marxist because you think there's a limit on resources. I was like, oh, so if you actually understand, like, science or physics or or ecology or the way that the planet works, if you think that something is limited, you're a Marxist. I'm like, I don't know whether or not I'm a Marxist, but I understand how the planet Earth works. That doesn't necessarily make me a Marxist. Anyways, poop goes to the ocean. And yeah, the other thing I was trying to explain to him, where does the waste go? What the other problem with his analogy or his whatever, like, we create a whole bunch of pollution. Anyways, I broke it all down for him and I said, like, carrying capacity, and I tried to explain it. First I was just like, you guys are just dumb as rocks. And then they were like all mad at me because, oh, you're just calling people names and you're not. I'm like, I can't explain it to you because you're too stupid to understand it. Then I explained the whole thing to him and he was like, yeah, this sounds like a bunch of liberal ploppy poop. I was like, see, you're just a stupid ass. Anyways, it was just a ridiculous conversation, but to sum it all up, there's a lot of dumbass people out there. And they're running around going, we're really smart. I am a masochist, you're right. Drugs is bad. Yes. It was funny and sad and frustrating at the same time. Anyways, yes. So Kevin Shanholzer, this is the reason why I wanted to say all that too. Kevin Shanholzer said Texas would fill with human corpses. Stupid thing to say. That's what you get with Twitter character limit, right? Imagine all the excrement, right? And just thinking about the number of people in Texas right now, right? The millions of people that suddenly didn't have an energy grid. I was like, what if you cut off people's access to energy or resources, and all of a sudden the millions of people in Texas were just spreading out, chopping down all the trees in order to get heat, killing every animal in sight in order to eat something, right? Like you would understand carrying capacity very quickly, right? If you took away all the resources from the people just lived in Texas now, just millions of people that live in Texas now. Very quickly, the environment in Texas would be decimated, like in a hot second, and then all those people would die because then they'd run out of trees and animals to kill. And, they'd overrun all the farms and all the food that was growing. And, so, yeah, people just don't even understand what carrying capacity means or what it even have not the slightest concept of it, but whatever. You can fit all the people on the planet Earth in the state of Texas. Okay. Okie dokie. This is going long. This video, Urban Hermit, Dunning-Kruger effect. I know. The problem is even people that understand what the Dunning-Kruger effect still are prey to the Dunning-Kruger effect. Even some of those people are too dumb to realize, or they think they're smarter than they are. Anyways, too dumb to realize how dumb they are. Last thing I wanted to do was read this very good thing from Will Falk, who I've had on the show before. Will Falk is part of the protest at Thacker Pass. And I just wanted to read this really quickly. It's really great, short little piece. He says, I keep trying to write something happy or beautiful about Thacker Pass because I want to entice more people to come join us out here. But it feels too manipulative. The truth is, it's cold up here, it's windy, it's muddy, it's uncomfortable. Personally, I don't find it fun or happy. There are so many things I'd rather be doing. I'd rather be falling in love with a woman, maybe becoming a father, spending more time with friends and family, finding a home. In other words, I'd rather just live. But when I consider these things, I feel like too many of us have chosen to just live instead of fighting for a better world. Choosing to just live keeps pushing the problem off to someone else. Choosing to just live feels irresponsible. Choosing to just live feels selfish. I'm not writing this for sympathy or for words of encouragement. I'm writing this so more of us will choose to fight instead of choosing to just live. This won't be fun. It won't be happy. Many of us won't even live to see the fruits of our resistance. Nevertheless, the sooner we fight and win, the sooner just living will be just living in all of its pure, simple beauty. Hope you all enjoyed that from Will Falk. True truths from Will Falk. And good words indeed. All right, guys, that about does it for me today. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. I will be back in about 15 minutes to do a Rockfin rant, a neo-realism rant. So come join me on Rockfin in about 15. Until next time, peace.